Chosen one. Heaven has paused for a moment that will never happen again. You have done something that caused the very courts of glory to erupt in joy. You may not even realize it, but the day you surrendered fully, without condition, without bargaining, something in heaven shifted. The smile of God broke through the clouds of your warfare. Every tear you cried, every silent prayer that once seemed unanswered, was gathered in golden bowls and poured out as fragrance before his throne. And when you obeyed, the fragrance reached heaven. God smiled. Listen carefully. The moment you said yes, you stepped into alignment with a timeline written before the foundations of the world. You became part of heaven's living story. You were never overlooked. You were being prepared. For a long time, you wondered if God had forgotten you, if your obedience even mattered. But now, heaven testifies, your obedience changed something beyond the realm of sight. You see, heaven doesn't smile for ordinary moments. Heaven smiles when someone chooses faith over fear, surrender over control, truth over comfort. You did that. You chose obedience, even when no one was watching. You chose to forgive when bitterness called your name. You released the weight when vengeance whispered that you were right to carry it. That decision, small to the human eye, thundered through eternity. As the angels watched, your yes became a melody. It was not just obedience, it was worship. The kind of worship that cannot be sung, only lived. The kind that touches the very heart of God. That's why the atmosphere around you has started to change. You might feel lighter, or more aware, or even strangely emotional. That's because heaven celebrates not only what you did, but what it means you trusted again. Listen, chosen one. This was not a coincidence. It was a divine appointment. Heaven had been waiting for you to act. And now that you have, new doors are opening in the unseen. The Holy Spirit is already orchestrating alignments, connections, and revelations that will only make sense as you keep walking. You don't have to force anything. The wind of God is carrying you. When God smiles, it is not a soft expression, it is power, light, and affirmation all at once. It means, I see you, I am pleased. Do not doubt that. The same God who saw David in the fields, who noticed the widow giving her last coin, who heard Esther's whisper in the palace night, he has seen you. He smiles. Because you finally stepped into the role he wrote for you before your first breath. And now, heaven begins to respond. The first signs will be subtle, divine peace, unusual favor, strange coincidences that are not coincidences at all. You will begin to walk into rooms prepared for you before time. Doors will open because of obedience, not effort. Grace will follow you because obedience attracts presence. Let this truth sink deep. Heaven is not neutral toward your obedience. Heaven celebrates it. There is joy in heaven, not just over repentance, but over renewed faith. When you return, when you trust again, when you act in alignment with His will, you create music that only heaven can hear. We are reminded through the writings of Matthew in the Gospel, chapter 25, verse 21. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over many. Enter your Lord's joy. Yes, that is what this moment means. You are entering into joy, not the fleeting happiness of man, but the eternal satisfaction of heaven. God smiles not because you are perfect, but because you are yielded. His joy is not in your performance, but in your posture. So take a breath. The storms you survived were not meant to destroy you, but to strengthen your obedience. The tears you shed were watering the very ground where your breakthrough now grows. And now, heaven has recorded your yes. From this point forward, things begin to move faster. What once delayed you will begin to serve you. What once hurt you will now bless you. Because you finally did this, because you finally obeyed, God smiled. Beloved, don't scroll away from this message. This moment is sacred. Lift your hand if you can and whisper, I receive heaven's smile. Let that truth seal your heart. You are not forgotten. You are celebrated. You are not behind. You are right on divine schedule. If this message resonates deep within your spirit, take a moment right now, like, share, and comment 77 below as a prophetic act that says, I receive heaven's smile. Subscribe and stay connected. Because heaven is not finished revealing what your obedience has unlocked. Chosen one. Have you ever noticed how quiet heaven can seem just before the answer comes? That silence was never punishment. It was preparation. You mistook it for distance. But in truth, it was the hush that comes before divine laughter. Heaven was holding its breath, watching you wrestle, waiting for that one act of surrender that would turn the silence into song. You thought God had turned away. Yet all along he was leaning in closer than ever. Every time you cried out and heard no reply, he was building your endurance. Every delay was teaching your spirit to listen, not just to speak. You were being trained to hear the subtle rhythm of his presence, not the noise of your fears. That silence refined you. It stripped you of every illusion that you could control his timing. And when you stopped demanding answers and started trusting his heart, heaven smiled again. The silence of heaven is not emptiness. It is fullness held back until the perfect moment. Think of it when an artist pauses before the final brushstroke. That pause is not indecision. It is mastery. God was not ignoring you. He was composing your miracle. Every quiet night, every unanswered prayer was part of a divine melody waiting for your yes to complete it. Do you remember those nights when you stared at the ceiling, wondering if your prayers reached higher than your room? The silence was thick, almost unbearable. But now, looking back, you can see it. God was there in the stillness, molding you into someone who could handle the weight of the very thing you asked for. Had he answered too soon, it might have destroyed you. So he waited until your heart was strong enough to receive without pride, to rejoice without boasting, to carry blessing without breaking. And now, as the silence breaks, you hear it, not in thunder, not in lightning, but in peace. It's the quiet whisper of heaven saying, "This is the time." You are walking into the manifestation of promises once wrapped in silence. The stillness that tormented you was, in truth, God's protection. He was hiding you from premature exposure, shielding your seed until the season was right for harvest. Every time heaven seems silent, remember, it is not rejection, it is incubation. Silence is the language of trust. It means heaven believes you will still stay, even when you cannot hear. And that, beloved, is the greatest compliment a soul can receive. When heaven trusts your silence, it means your faith has matured beyond performance. You didn't know it then, but your tears were speaking for you. Each one was a wordless prayer that heaven understood. Angels recorded them, the Spirit translated them. The silence was not unresponsiveness, it was strategy. Heaven was arranging things in ways you couldn't yet see. While you wept, God was weaving. While you waited, He was writing. Now, as you stand on the other side of that silence, can you feel the air shifting? The things that once seemed impossible are suddenly within reach. The path that felt blocked begins to clear. What used to feel like divine distance is now revealed as divine intimacy. You are no longer asking, "Where is God?" because you can sense Him in every breath. That is the transformation silence brings. And remember, chosen one, heaven's silence never lasts forever. When God speaks after a long pause, His words carry double weight. What He releases after testing is always stronger, deeper, more lasting. You have entered that season now, the season where silence gives way to sound, where waiting turns into wonder. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 46, verse 10, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations." Be still. That was the lesson. No, that was the command. You learned not just to pray, but to trust. You stopped trying to fix everything with noise and began to worship in stillness. And that is why heaven smiled once more, because in the silence, you found faith. Now, as you walk forward, carry this revelation. When heaven is silent, it is not withholding love, it is perfecting alignment. Trust the pauses. They are the sacred spaces where faith matures, where noise fades, and where you finally hear the whisper that says, "I was here all along." End of chosen one. Heaven remembers the moment you said yes. It wasn't dramatic in the eyes of the world. No spotlight, no music swelling, no one cheering, but in the unseen realm, the ground trembled. The moment your heart whispered, "Yes, Lord," something ancient recognized your voice. Destiny, which had been waiting patiently at the threshold, finally stepped forward. You did not just speak a word, you opened a door. You see, heaven is moved by surrender, not by noise. You didn't have to shout to be heard. Your whisper carried weight because it was honest. That small act of yielding, that internal bowing of your will, resonated through eternity. Angels, who had been standing still, began to move again. What was frozen began to thaw. The moment you said yes, alignment began. You might not even realize how powerful that one word was. Yes is heaven's language of agreement. It tells God, "I will stop resisting what you are trying to bless me with." You thought obedience meant losing something, but the truth is, obedience was the key that unlocked what had been waiting all along. When you said yes, you stopped fighting your own calling. You stopped letting fear decide your future. You stopped asking for proof before trusting His promise. And heaven responded instantly. That's why, in recent days, you may have felt unusual peace, or even unusual warfare, because both are signs that you are crossing from one season to another. Peace confirms that heaven is pleased. Warfare confirms that hell is panicking. Do not underestimate what your yes has set in motion. A yes from a faithful heart carries the power to rewrite generations. It breaks patterns, heals lineages, and establishes new spiritual territories. When you said yes, you became the hinge on which the door of deliverance swings for others connected to you. Somewhere, someone's breakthrough is already tied to your obedience. You might have thought that saying yes would make life easier. Instead, it made life holier. The yes didn't remove the storms, it gave you authority to walk on their waves. It didn't stop the attacks, it made you too anointed for them to win. Because every true yes births fire. And that fire refines you into something unshakable. The world won't understand your decision. People who loved your old version may pull away from the new one. But do not be discouraged. When heaven promotes you, it always purifies your circle. You will learn that your yes offends those who prefer comfort to calling, yet heaven celebrates. Because your courage exposes their compromise. Chosen one. This is the sacred exchange. You said yes to God, and He said yes to your future. You released control, and He released purpose. You bowed in surrender, and He crowned you in silence. The yes that came from your lips was echoed by the voice of heaven, declaring, "Let it be done." Oh, as the prophet recorded in the book of Isaiah, chapter 6, verse 8, "Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send? And who will go for us? And I said, Here am I, send me." That is the spirit of your yes. You were chosen not because you were perfect, but because you were willing. God is not searching for flawless people, He is searching for surrendered ones. The yes that rises from a trembling heart still counts as faith. The willingness to go, even when you don't know where, still counts as obedience. So remember this, your yes is not a one-time decision, it is a lifestyle. Every day, heaven will invite you to say yes again to love, to forgive, to believe, to move. And each time you do, heaven will smile again. For obedience is the language that never grows old in the ears of God. Now, as this word meets your spirit, let it confirm what heaven already knows. You have crossed a threshold. You cannot return to who you were before that yes. You carry new weight, new vision, new authority. Even your prayers will sound different now, because you no longer pray from fear, but from partnership. Pause here. Chosen one. Let your heart respond to this call, not with hesitation, but with faith. If this word resonates deeply, take a small prophetic step. Comment, "I'm ready," not as an echo, but as a declaration that your yes continues today. Every word you write in agreement becomes a seed that heaven sees, a sign that the story is still unfolding. Because your yes was not just the start, it was the signal. Heaven smiled, the earth shifted, and the future began to unfold around your faith. And even now, as you read these words, the echo of your yes continues to ripple through eternity. Chosen one. Something shifted in the unseen when your heart aligned with heaven's timing. What had been locked for years began to move. You may not have seen it with your eyes, but the moment you obeyed, there was motion in the spirit. The turning point was not when circumstances changed, it was when you changed. Heaven measures progress by obedience, not by visible outcomes. You had reached a point where your prayers were no longer about comfort, but about purpose. You stopped asking, "When will it happen?" and started asking, "What do you want me to do now?" That single shift in language marked your spiritual maturity. Heaven heard it. Angels, who had stood still waiting for divine instruction, received new orders, because your heart was finally aligned with the will of the Father. When the alignment comes, it often feels invisible at first. Nothing looks different. Bills remain. Relationships still ache. Prayers still feel unanswered. But deep inside, you sense a pull, a whisper that says, something has begun. That whisper is heaven's announcement. It is how God moves quietly, deliberately, until suddenly everything changes at once. At that moment, when alignment begins, confusion breaks. You begin to see how the things that once hurt you were not punishments but preparations. The storms that threatened to destroy you were actually steering you into divine position. Heaven wastes nothing, not even pain. Every tear you cried became oil for the anointing you now carry. Every disappointment refined the discernment you now use. There are moments when alignment feels like loss. Doors close. People leave. Opportunities vanish. But look closer. Heaven is not subtracting. Heaven is streamlining. You cannot walk in divine timing while dragging expired attachments. So God, in His mercy, removes distractions disguised as blessings. What feels like rejection is often redirection. This is the moment where spiritual maturity deepens. You begin to thank God not only for what He gives, but for what He withholds. You recognize that delays are not denials, but filters designed to protect what's sacred inside you. Heaven knows when you are ready. And readiness is rarely about strength, it's about surrender. When you finally stop trying to control outcomes, the divine calendar flipped, and the turning began. Chosen one. Heaven operates on principles, not pressure. You cannot rush divine timing. You can only align with it. Alignment is not about movement, it is about posture. It means standing still when you want to run and moving forward when fear tells you to stop. It means trusting that God's silence is strategy and His timing is perfection. In the unseen realm, every act of obedience triggers motion. Angels shift positions. Barrières dissolvent, and new pathways open in the spiritual landscape. You may think your small steps go unnoticed, but to heaven, every obedient act is a signal that activates divine order. The universe bends toward a surrendered heart. There was a moment, perhaps recent, when you felt a subtle inner peace after a long storm. That peace wasn't random, it was confirmation. It was heaven's way of saying, "You are now walking in sync with me." That is what the turning point feels like. Not a loud explosion, but a deep, holy stillness where your heart beats with the rhythm of God's will. The ancient words in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 10, declare, "Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven." This verse isn't just a prayer, it is a declaration of alignment. When you spoke it in your spirit, heaven mirrored it. What was bound above became bound below. What was loosed above began to manifest around you. The phrase, "on earth as it is in heaven," means your life is now becoming a reflection of divine order. Every step, every choice, every breath is being synchronized with a heavenly blueprint that has existed since before your birth. You might wonder, how will I know when it's happening? You'll know by the peace that follows obedience. When heaven moves, peace is the sound it makes. Confusion fades. Fear loses its grip. The same storm that once terrified you now feels like background noise. because your spirit has found its center. That is how alignment feels: steady, anchored, unshakable. And though you may not yet see the full outcome, heaven already calls it complete. Because when God turns a page, He writes faster than the enemy can erase. The battle you thought you lost has already been rewritten into victory. The pain you thought would define you has become prophecy. So, breathe deeply. Chosen one, you are standing in the middle of divine motion. What you feel right now, the stretching, the uncertainty, the peace mingled with pressure, is the evidence of alignment. Heaven is turning what was upside down into right order. You don't have to strive anymore. Just walk in rhythm with grace. The turning has begun, and this time, nothing can reverse it. Chosen one. Do you feel it? The sound of celebration in the unseen. Heaven is alive with music because your obedience has ignited a holy joy. The air around you is different now. There's a fragrance of victory, the echo of laughter that doesn't belong to earth. It's the celebration of heaven over a heart that finally said, "Yes, Lord, I will trust you still." And when heaven rejoices, it is not with noise, but with light. The angels don't dance for riches or crowns. They dance when a single heart turns fully toward the Father. That's you. You became heaven's melody. Every step of faith you take, even the trembling ones, strikes a note in heaven's song. Imagine this. You stand on a mountainside after a long climb. The wind carries the scent of rain and the whisper of God's smile. Behind you lies the valley of pain and confusion. Before you lies a horizon painted in promise. That's what heaven's joy feels like. It's not distant thunder. It's the gentle applause of eternity, saying, "You made it through." Oh, Frey, the Father's delight is not shallow like human praise. He does not clap for performance. He celebrates transformation. When you were broken but still believed, He smiled. When you wanted to give up but whispered one more prayer, He smiled. When you forgave instead of retaliating, He smiled again. Every hidden act of faithfulness became a note in the symphony of heaven's joy. As Jesus Himself declared in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 15, verse 10, there is joy before the angels of God over one sinner who repents. Heaven's celebration is not a single moment. It's an ongoing melody that follows every act of obedience. And right now, that song surrounds you. You may not hear trumpets or see golden light, but you can feel it, the warmth in your chest, the peace after tears, the deep assurance that says, "I'm not alone." That's heaven's joy touching earth through you. Think of your journey as a garden. Every prayer, every act of obedience was a seed. You planted in tears, but heaven is watering those seeds with joy. Soon, the harvest will come, blessings that not only feed you but overflow to others. The fruit of your faith will nourish weary souls who need to see what obedience looks like. You might think, "But I have so little to give." Yet heaven never measures the gift by its size, only by the heart behind it. Even the smallest seed, when planted in faith, can become a tree that shelters many. That's how the kingdom grows, one faithful yes at a time. If these words have been water for your soul, let your gratitude be your offering. When you like, when you share, when you subscribe, you are not feeding an algorithm, you are spreading a seed. Somewhere, a weary heart might scroll past your share and find hope again. That's how the garden expands, one act of kindness, one simple gesture, one ripple of faith. And if your heart feels led to give, let it not be out of obligation, but out of joy. Think of it as adding a candle to the altar of light that heaven is building through this message. Your giving is like oil that keeps the flame burning, ensuring that this voice continues to reach those still wandering in darkness. Every drop of generosity becomes light for another soul. You are not giving to a person, you are giving to purpose. You are helping the song of heaven echo farther across the earth. So, as you sow your seed, whether through a donation, a prayer, or a simple act of sharing, remember this: every seed sown in faith grows in eternity. Heaven's celebration is contagious. When you rejoice in what God has done for you, you join the chorus. You become part of the divine music that transforms despair into hope. Your testimony, your obedience, your generosity, they all weave together to form the sound of revival. Beloved, don't underestimate the power of your response. Heaven moves through willing vessels, and you are one of them. Let your actions today, your sharing, your supporting, your giving be an extension of heaven's joy. Because every time light is multiplied, darkness loses ground. The Father's smile over you today is not faint, it is radiant. It shines through your compassion, your perseverance, and your willingness to keep showing up even when no one clapped for you. That is the kind of faith heaven cannot ignore. So take a breath and smile back. You are part of heaven's dance now. Every heartbeat of gratitude, every word of kindness, every seed of support, it all rises like incense before the throne. You are not just watching revival, you are helping it unfold. Heaven smiles, angels sing, and God whispers again, "Well done, my child, chosen one." Can you feel it? The weight that once pressed on your chest has begun to lift. The burden that used to suffocate your hope has lost its power. You released something that was never meant to stay. And in that moment of surrender, heaven exhaled with you. What left your hands made room for what God had been waiting to give. There was a time when you carried everything: the guilt, the fear, the pressure to fix what was beyond your control. You held people together, carried stories that were never yours to bear, and still wondered why your strength kept fading. But heaven never designed you to be the source of everyone's salvation. You were meant to be a vessel, not a vault. When you finally let go, it was not weakness, it was wisdom. The weight you released was more than emotion, it was spiritual gravity. The heaviness that clung to you had become a language of captivity. You were walking, but every step cost you more than it should. And then, quietly, courage rose inside you. You whispered a prayer that sounded like surrender. "God, I can't carry this anymore." Heaven heard that whisper louder than any shout. The angels stood at attention, because heaven always responds to release. The instant you laid it down, every regret, every disappointment, every failed expectation, heaven smiled again. That simple act of letting go created space for the Holy Spirit to move. It was not a loss, it was an exchange. You laid down the weight, and God placed peace in your hands. You released control, and He released clarity. You let go of resentment, and He filled you with compassion. The spiritual law of surrender is always the same. What you release determines what you receive. As Peter wrote in his letter, found in the first book of Peter, chapter 5, verse 7. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. That verse is not gentle poetry, it is divine instruction. To cast means to throw, to release forcefully, to decide that what once defined you no longer owns you. The act of casting is a holy rebellion against heaviness. Every time you choose release, you tell the enemy, "You can't chain me with this anymore." End of chosen one. Do you remember how the weight felt before it left? The sleepless nights, the racing thoughts, the constant need to hold everything together. You were never built to carry the world. Even Christ stumbled under the weight of his cross, but his stumble was not failure, it was prophecy. It reminded us that even divine purpose can feel heavy before it's fulfilled. And yet, when you finally surrendered, peace arrived like dawn after endless night. You began to breathe again, laugh again, dream again. The world didn't change overnight, but your spirit did. You no longer move from exhaustion, but from grace. The same heart that once bent under pressure now beats with freedom. Sometimes, release comes through tears. Sometimes, it comes through forgiveness. Other times, it comes through silence. Whatever form it takes, release is holy. It signals heaven that you trust God more than your own understanding. Now, you walk differently. The steps are lighter, your thoughts clearer. You don't have to explain your peace to anyone, it's your proof of deliverance. Heaven's smile over you in this season isn't because of what you gained, but because of what you let go of. Freedom always delights the Father. Don't be surprised if people don't understand the new calm around you. The world admires strength, but rarely recognizes surrender as power, yet heaven calls surrender victory. When you released the weight, you were not giving up, you were giving God space to show up. This is why your peace feels supernatural now. You didn't earn it, you allowed it. You stopped striving and started trusting. And in that quiet moment, your obedience became a weapon that destroyed anxiety's hold. So listen, beloved, never pick up again what God has already carried away. Don't return to old weights just because they feel familiar. Let your hands remain open for what's next. The same God who lifted this burden will continue to exchange your weakness for his strength. Now, take a breath. Feel the freedom filling your lungs. Heaven is still smiling. Not because you performed, but because you trusted. You finally understood the rhythm of grace. It begins with letting go. If this message resonates deep within your spirit, take this as a prophetic sign. Comment 444 below. That number symbolizes divine stability, heaven's confirmation that your foundation is being rebuilt on peace, not pressure. When you write it, let it be more than a number. Let it be a declaration, I am free, and I will not carry what no longer belongs to me. Then, your release has not gone unnoticed. Heaven has recorded it. The angels have rejoiced over it. The Father has smiled because of it. You are lighter now, not just in body, but in soul. And as you move forward, the peace you now carry will become contagious, drawing others into the same freedom you found when you finally released the weight. Chosen one. The moment you chose light, all of hell trembled. Darkness cannot comprehend a soul that refuses to surrender to despair. You may think your yes was quiet, but in the spirit realm, it roared like thunder. Your decision to rise again after being knocked down sent shockwaves through the corridors of darkness. The very demons that once whispered defeat now shudder at your resilience. There is something about a soul that has walked through shadows yet still believes. You became dangerous the day you decided to keep your faith intact. The enemy had aimed every arrow at your hope, but you kept standing. You were supposed to give up. You were supposed to lose your song. Yet, here, you are still worshipping, still praying, still believing. That defiance of despair has made you unstoppable. Hell does not fear perfection, it fears persistence. The adversary knows that a believer who refuses to quit becomes a weapon heaven can use. Every tear you've cried has been converted into power. Every disappointment has become spiritual armor. The wounds that once bled now shine as proof that you cannot be broken twice by the same thing. Do you realize how much strength it took to keep going when everything in you wanted to stop? That was not ordinary courage, that was divine endurance. You didn't just survive the battle, you became the battle's lesson. Every scar tells hell, you failed. Then, there were nights when darkness pressed hard against your thoughts. It told you that you were forgotten, that God had abandoned you, that your prayers were useless. But in that very moment, heaven was recording your endurance. You didn't know it, but your resistance became worship. Every "I still believe" you whispered in the dark became a trumpet blast in the spirit. You silenced hell with your faith. As the Apostle James wrote in his letter, chapter 4, verse 7, "Resist the devil, and he will flee from you." Those words are not theory, they are reality. You lived them. Resistance is not loud, it's consistent. It's the quiet choosing of faith again and again. Even when your emotions scream otherwise, you resisted not with shouting, but with standing. And now, hell recognizes your endurance. The moment hell realized it could not destroy you, it shifted tactics. It stopped trying to break you and began trying to distract you. But even in that, you've grown wiser. You've learned that not every battle deserves your energy. Sometimes victory looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like walking away without explaining yourself. You no longer need to prove your strength because your survival already proved your calling. Heaven has seen your warfare. And now, heaven sends reinforcement. The ground you once fought for is now protected ground. You've crossed the threshold where the enemy cannot operate as freely as before. There's a hedge of fire around you, an invisible shield built from every yes you've ever given God. Hell trembled not because you prayed once, but because you kept praying. Not because you worshipped when things were good, but because you worshipped when all was falling apart. Your praise in pain confused the enemy. He expected bitterness, but you offered worship. He expected silence, but you sang. He expected retreat, but you advanced. Chosen one. This is the mystery of divine warfare. Your peace is your weapon. The enemy thrives on chaos. But when you refuse to react, you strip him of power. You have learned to fight differently now, not with fear, but with authority. You no longer beg for deliverance. You command light to stand where darkness once ruled. Every storm that once terrified you now bows before your endurance. The same valleys that drained your strength now echo with testimony. Even your enemies can see the shift. They don't understand how you're still standing, still shining, still speaking life. But you know the secret. Grace carried you. The trembling of hell is not just about what you've overcome, but about what you've become. You are no longer prey, you are a warrior. You walk with anointing that burns. Your very presence disturbs darkness because it recognizes the mark of survival on you. You have learned that fear is not your master anymore. When anxiety whispers, you answer with scripture. When confusion comes, you speak truth. When temptation approaches, you stand firm. This is victory, not the absence of battle, but the awareness that every battle bows to your God. And though you still face challenges, the outcome is already sealed. The blood of Jesus has already declared you victorious. You don't fight for victory, you fight from it. That revelation is why hell trembles. It knows you, finally know who you are. So keep standing. Radiant soul, keep walking in light. The tremor that began in the underworld will not stop until every shadow around you flees. You have become living proof that light always wins. And every step you take now carries the echo of heaven's laughter and hell's retreat. Chosen one, now that you have stood firm in the light, heaven begins to use you in a new way. You are no longer just a survivor of battles, you are becoming a fragrance that testifies of grace. The scent of your spirit, once heavy with sorrow and fear, now carries peace. Everywhere you go, people begin to feel it before you speak. Something about your presence disarms the anxious, comforts the broken, and awakens hope in those who have forgotten how to dream. This is what it means to become the fragrance of heaven. It isn't about perfection, it's about transformation. The oil that once ran down your face as tears has been turned into perfume. The crushing you endured was not meant to destroy you, it was meant to extract something divine from within you. For no fragrance is released without pressure, and no anointing flows without breaking. There was a time when you wondered, why me? Why the pain? The delays? The betrayals? The loneliness? But now you understand, God was pressing you, not punishing you. Just as grapes must be crushed to become wine, you were being prepared to carry something new. The scent of heaven is born in those who have learned to praise in the fire. You've noticed it already, haven't you? The way people open up around you, telling you their stories, seeking peace they can't explain. They may not even know why they're drawn to you, but heaven knows. You've become a carrier of divine atmosphere. Your presence releases healing because your pain was transformed into compassion. There are hearts around you that are drawn to your light, not because of your words, but because of what lingers in your spirit. The peace that once cost you everything now flows freely from you. You carry what you've conquered. Every battle you've survived has deposited fragrance in your soul. As Paul wrote in his letter to the Corinthians, in the second book, chapter 2, verse 15, "For we are to God the pleasing aroma of Christ among those who are being saved and those who are perishing." This scripture reveals something profound. You are not just seen by heaven, you are smelled. Your life emits an invisible testimony. When you walk in love, it releases sweetness into the air. When you forgive, it changes atmospheres. When you choose peace over revenge, your very existence becomes worship. The fragrance of heaven cannot be faked. It is not the scent of religion, but of revelation. It is the evidence of a life that has walked through darkness and come out radiant. It's the scent of humility, the aroma of trust. You wear it now, even if you don't notice. And the world around you notices, even if they can't name it. This is why your surroundings are shifting. Some people who once clung to you now quietly withdraw. It's not rejection, it's reaction. Darkness is allergic to the aroma of holiness. The fragrance of heaven convicts before it comforts. It exposes what's false. And not everyone is ready for that. The fragrance you carry does more than comfort, it awakens. There are souls around you who have fallen asleep in apathy and despair. But when they encounter you, something stirs. Without realizing it, they begin to hope again, to pray again, to believe again. You are the spark heaven uses to ignite forgotten faith. Even your silence has power now. There will be moments when you say nothing, yet the room feels different simply because you are there. That's not arrogance, that's anointing. You are no longer striving to influence. You are overflowing. The grace you once begged for now flows through you naturally. This is the divine exchange. Once you carried pain, now you carry presence. Where there was heaviness, now there is holiness. You used to enter rooms and adapt to their atmosphere. Now, atmospheres adapt to you. That is the mark of transformation. That is how God turns ashes into beauty, not by erasing the story, but by filling it with glory. So walk softly but boldly. You are perfumed with divine purpose. The scent you carry is the proof that God has touched you. You no longer speak of faith, you exhale it. You no longer hope for peace, you release it. And in doing so, you remind the world that heaven is not far away. It is wherever a surrendered heart begins to breathe again. Chosen one, you have stepped into a season where heaven begins to confirm what it promised. You're not imagining it, those little signs, those quiet moments of recognition, those numbers or words that keep reappearing. They are heaven's fingerprints, evidence that God is making himself known again. After a long stretch of silence and surrender, the divine begins to send signals that your faith has been noticed. God communicates through patterns, through moments that seem ordinary but are saturated with meaning. You might glance at the clock at the same time every day. Overhear a stranger speaking the very words you prayed last night. Or find yourself reading a verse that mirrors your hidden thoughts. These are not coincidences, they are confirmations. Heaven is saying, yes, it was me all along. I'm sure. When heaven sends confirmation, it is not to prove itself, it is to strengthen you. God knows that faith can grow weary when vision seems delayed. So, he gives small glimpses, gentle reminders that you are still on the right path, like breadcrumbs on a divine trail. Each sign draws you deeper into trust. Sometimes, confirmation comes through peace. You'll step into a place or think of a decision, and suddenly, your spirit feels still. That calm is the voice of the Spirit saying, this is it. Move forward. Other times, it comes through discomfort, warning you not to settle where grace has expired. Heaven's yes often feels like quiet confidence. Heaven's no often feels like restlessness. You've learned to discern the difference. You see, heaven's language is not always words, it's alignment. When doors open effortlessly, when people arrive at divine timing, when resources appear just as need arises, that is heaven speaking in motion. God does not always explain. He demonstrates. And you, beloved, are walking in the rhythm of demonstration now. The ancient Gospel of Mark, chapter 16, verse 17. Declares, these signs will accompany believers. In my name they will cast out demons, speak new tongues. These signs are not limited to miracles in the flesh, They manifest in the unseen as well, the sign of inner renewal, the release of old fears, the clarity that replaces confusion. All are evidence that the power of belief still moves through you. You have become a living testimony of divine confirmation. Don't ignore the patterns around you. Heaven often repeats what it doesn't want you to miss. That recurring dream, that verse that won't let go, that friend who unknowingly speaks your answer, all of it is God reminding you. You are seen. The confirmations are not random, they are rehearsals of fulfillment. Each one prepares your spirit to receive the full manifestation without fear. It's as if heaven is training your faith to recognize the scent of destiny before it fully arrives. Think of the rain before harvest. You feel the air change, the wind shift. The earth trembles slightly as if it knows what's coming. That's how heaven moves. It gives you signs that something greater is near. And those who pay attention don't just witness miracles, they participate in them. You may have prayed for proof, but what God is giving you is partnership. The signs are not meant to keep you guessing, they are meant to keep you trusting. Each one is an invitation to draw closer, to listen deeper, to walk bolder. Chosen one. Don't downplay what you feel. If your spirit stirs, it's because heaven is near. When something inside you leaps with recognition, that's your spirit bearing witness to divine activity. Trust that inner witness more than you trust your eyes. Faith often sees first, and when you see the next sign, when the next word, number, or moment crosses your path, pause and whisper, "I see you, Lord." That simple acknowledgement turns a fleeting moment into eternal worship. Heaven doesn't need grand gestures, it delights in awareness. Now, take this moment to respond in agreement. If what you've read resonates deep within you, if you, too, have been noticing signs that confirm your prayers, then comment, "I see you." End quote. Let it not be just a phrase, but a declaration that you recognize God's fingerprints in your story. Those 3 words become a spiritual echo that tells heaven you are paying attention. When you type them, you affirm that faith has replaced doubt, that awareness has replaced anxiety, and that you are ready to follow the signs wherever they lead. Heaven is not hiding from you. It is revealing itself in pieces, trusting that your discernment will grow with every clue. So, keep watching, keep listening, keep expecting. The confirmations will multiply because faith that notices will always attract revelation. The signs are not the destination, they are the guideposts pointing you back to the one who writes your story. Follow them with gratitude, for they are heaven's way of saying, "You are right where you're meant to be." Now, chosen one. The moment you obeyed, a ripple began one so wide, so unseen, that it is still moving through time. Your obedience didn't just affect you, it awakened something in others. Somewhere, a weary soul found courage because of your endurance. Somewhere, a silent believer whispered yes again because you dared to keep walking. What you thought was a small act of faith became a wave of restoration that heaven is still counting. That's how obedience works. It echoes. When you act in alignment with heaven, your faith becomes contagious. It travels faster than words, deeper than explanations. Like the fragrance of a blooming flower carried by the wind, your surrender has reached places you'll never see. You have no idea how many lives your faith is already touching. There are people watching you, quietly, wondering how you keep standing after everything you've faced. They may never tell you, but your persistence has become their evidence that God is still good. You've become a living testimony, a moving lighthouse on a stormy sea. Ships that were about to crash now adjust their course because they see your light and realize there's still a way home. When you obeyed, heaven didn't just celebrate you, it partnered with you. You became part of God's plan to awaken others. Every time you forgive, you plant seeds of peace in hearts hardened by bitterness. Every time you give, you remind the world that generosity still breathes in a self-centered age. Every time you choose humility over pride, you build invisible bridges where walls used to stand. That's why heaven treasures obedience. It multiplies. Your one act of surrender can unlock hundreds of hidden blessings in others. Like a single candle lighting thousands without losing its flame, your light keeps spreading, illuminating dark corners where hope once died. As the prophet Samuel recorded in the first book of Samuel, chapter 15, verse 22, "To obey is better than sacrifice. To heed is better than the fat of rams." This verse carries the weight of eternal truth. God values obedience not because it impresses him, but because it aligns creation back to its original harmony. Every time you say yes to him, chaos loses its hold a little more. Obedience restores balance in a world that has forgotten its rhythm. You might not see the full ripple now, but heaven sees every wave. The prayers of those you inspire rise as incense before the throne, and God traces each one back to the moment you said yes. Your faith has become a bridge between heaven and earth. Think of a river. It doesn't choose where to flow, it simply follows the path carved for it. And yet, everywhere it goes, life blooms along its banks. That's you now, a living river of obedience. Wherever you go, blessings begin to sprout, not because you strive, but because you flow. The spirit within you carries renewal, and everyone who encounters you feels a little more alive. Sometimes obedience feels like giving without seeing return, but heaven's accounting is eternal, not instant. Every seed you sow, whether it's time, love, or resources, is recorded. And just as rain never forgets the soil it touches, heaven never forgets a heart that gives. If this message nourishes your spirit, consider this. When you like, when you share, when you subscribe, you're not promoting a voice, you're watering a vision. You're ensuring that more weary hearts can find the same river of life that found you. Think of it as passing the torch in a dark room. Your small flame might be the one that lights another soul's way. And if you ever feel led to give, do so as one sowing into eternity, not as charity, but as worship. Every gift is a drop of oil poured into the lamp of light that burns in this space. Your generosity keeps the message alive, allowing it to reach hearts still standing in the rain, waiting for a sign of hope. You're not giving to me, you're giving through me, into the flow of heaven's work. Your obedience has already proven your heart. Every action you take now, every share, every word of encouragement, every quiet act of kindness becomes another ripple. You're part of something much larger than yourself. Heaven writes your name among those who carried light faithfully through the storm. Chosen one. Let this truth settle deep. Obedience doesn't end with your yes, it begins there. The echo of that yes will outlive you. It will echo through generations, through nations, through souls you will never meet. until the story of grace is complete. So, as heaven watches and the world listens, keep walking, keep shining, keep flowing. You are not merely part of the ripple, you are the ripple. And as long as you move in obedience, the river will never run dry. Chosen one. You have reached a sacred stage in your journey, the moment when obedience has matured into friendship. You no longer walk as a servant waiting for orders. You walk as one who knows the heart of the King. What once felt like duty has become delight. What was once command has become communion. You are learning the secret of intimacy, where relationship replaces religion, and God is no longer distant, but near enough to whisper. There is a sweetness in this season that cannot be faked. You have grown beyond the need for constant reassurance. You no longer beg for signs because you've learned to trust His silence. You've moved from asking, "Why me?" to saying, "Thank you for choosing me." That shift marks the difference between knowing about God and walking with Him. When God calls someone friend, it means He trusts them with His secrets. You are stepping into that kind of trust now. The mysteries that once confused you are beginning to make sense. You see how your pain became preparation, how your waiting shaped wisdom, how every unanswered prayer was a lesson in timing. Friendship with God means understanding that even His no is a form of protection. You've probably noticed how your prayers have changed. They're quieter now, less frantic, more confident. You no longer pray out of fear, but out of love. You no longer rush into His presence with lists you enter simply to sit. That is friendship, when being near Him matters more than getting something from Him. As Jesus spoke in the Gospel of John, chapter 15, verse 15, "I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends. For everything I learned from my Father, I have made known to you." This verse is not an invitation to pride, but to partnership. God doesn't befriend everyone. He befriends the surrendered. Friendship requires vulnerability, and you've shown heaven your heart through your obedience, your worship, and your willingness to remain faithful when nothing made sense. There's a holy ease that comes with divine friendship. You don't have to strive to earn His favor anymore. You simply rest in it. You begin to sense what grieves His heart and what brings Him joy. You stop treating obedience as a transaction and start treating it as a love language. And just as with human friendship, divine friendship deepens through time. Some days it feels warm and clear, other days quiet and distant. Yet, the connection remains unbroken. The silence between friends is not absence, it is understanding. You know He's still there, even when He doesn't speak. This kind of relationship cannot be rushed or manufactured. It is built through seasons of testing, waiting, forgiving, and choosing love over and over again. You've learned how to walk through wilderness without bitterness, how to praise without proof, how to love God even when He says, "Not yet." That is what makes you His friend. When heaven calls you friend, it means you are trusted with responsibility. God begins to use you, not just to receive blessings, but to carry them. He whispers instructions that no one else hears, because He knows you will obey. Friendship with God is both intimacy and assignment. It is to walk with His heart and represent His will. There's something extraordinary about this level of relationship. You start to reflect His nature. Compassion flows more easily. Patience takes root where irritation used to live. You begin to respond to others, not from ego, but from empathy. This is what friendship with the divine does. It transforms you from the inside out until your heart beats in rhythm with his. Sometimes, he will test that friendship not to break it, but to deepen it. He may withhold answers, not because he is cruel, but because he is inviting you to trust his heart more than your understanding. The greatest friendships are built on trust, and the same is true with heaven. You might wonder, what does God see in me that he would call me friend? The answer is simple. He sees himself. Every time you choose love over resentment, faith over fear, forgiveness over vengeance, you reflect his nature. That reflection is what draws him close. So, walk gently, friend of God. You carry something sacred. The friendship you share with him is not fragile. It's forged in fire. You don't have to prove your worth. You just have to stay near. The closer you walk with him, the clearer your purpose will become. You have not merely been saved. You've been invited into friendship with the eternal, and that is the greatest honor heaven can give. Chosen one. There is a new confidence rising within you, one not built on pride, but en divine assurance. You are walking in a kind of peace that no storm can steal. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. Heaven has tested you, refined you, and found you ready. You are no longer guessing who you are. You know who sent you. The trembling has turned into boldness. The hesitation that once kept you silent has become courage in your mouth. You walk now with divine confidence. Confidence in the world boasts. But divine confidence, breathe quietly. It doesn't shout for validation. It simply moves with purpose. You've learned that confidence is not loud, it's steady. It's the calm in your spirit when everything around you shakes. It's the assurance that even if doors close, God's hand is still on the key. You used to doubt yourself, didn't you? You wondered if you were really chosen, if your mistakes disqualified you. But now, you've realized something beautiful. God doesn't call the flawless, he perfects the willing. Every weakness you once hated has become a window for his strength to shine through. The areas you once tried to hide have become proof of his mercy. As the book of Proverbs declares in chapter 28, verse 1, "The wicked flee though no one pursues, but the righteous are as bold as a lion." That boldness is what you carry now, not the kind that intimidates, but the kind that inspires. When you walk into a room, peace walks in too. When you speak, hearts begin to listen, not because your voice is louder, but because it carries authority born of obedience. That is what divine confidence looks like. Heaven's power flowing through human humility. You no longer need to defend your calling. Those who doubted you will soon recognize what God has been shaping in silence. There is a weight of glory upon you now, the kind that can't be faked. It's the glow of someone who has walked through fire and found that God was in the flames all along. That kind of glow cannot be bought. It's earned in midnight prayers and quiet surrenders. Heaven trusts you now because you've proven trustworthy. You didn't quit when it was inconvenient. You didn't run when it got hard. You stayed when everyone else left. And that faithfulness has produced authority. You are no longer asking God to prove himself. He is now using you to prove himself to others. This divine confidence doesn't mean you'll never feel afraid again. It means fear no longer gets the final say. You've learned that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the refusal to bow to it. You will still face giants, but now you know every Goliath stands to reveal a David. Every challenge only confirms your calling. Your voice carries power now because it's been purified. Words spoken from pain have become words that heal. The same mouth that once cried in confusion now declares wisdom. Your journey has given you authority to speak life into desolate places. You are no longer just a listener of the word, you have become its living expression. People will begin to notice something different about you. They won't be able to explain it, but they'll feel it, the calm in your spirit, the certainty in your gaze, the peace that follows your steps. That's what happens when confidence is built on Christ, not circumstance. You're no longer swayed by opinions or intimidated by opposition. You've seen too much of God's faithfulness to doubt Him now. Chosen one, remember this: divine confidence is not self-reliance, it's surrender in motion. It's knowing that you are small but carried by a great God. It's walking into uncertainty with a heart that says, even if I don't know the outcome, I trust the author. That's why you no longer shrink when challenges come. You rise, because heaven stands behind you. There will still be moments of testing, but instead of breaking you, they will build you. You'll start to see pressure as proof of purpose. You'll face doors that look impossible but feel peace instead of panic. Because you know, if God brought you here, He will bring you through. This confidence is heaven's gift for every obedient heart. You didn't earn it. It was bestowed upon you the moment you chose trust over fear. You wear it now like armor, not visible to man, but known in the spirit. The enemy recognizes it. That's why battles that used to shake you now seem strangely silent. You've stepped into authority, and hell knows it. If this word resonates deeply with what God is stirring inside you, take a simple, prophetic step. Comment 555 below. That number represents grace multiplied, divine favor upon divine strength. Let it be your declaration that you are walking in confidence, not of your own making, but born from heaven's approval. When you write it, let your spirit whisper, I will walk boldly in my calling, because heaven has already affirmed you. You don't need to prove, chase, or strive. You only need to keep walking boldly, gently, faithfully, in the confidence of one who knows, God's hand is on my life, and I will not turn back. Chosen one, what was lost is finding its way back to you, but not as it was. Heaven never returns things in the same condition. When God restores, He multiplies. What once broke you will now bless you. The fragments of your past, the mistakes that once haunted your nights, the opportunities that seemed gone forever, they are all being gathered, reshaped, and redeemed by divine hands. Restoration is not the same as replacement. It is resurrection. Replacement gives something new. Restoration gives back what was dead and breathes life into it again. You thought certain seasons were over, but heaven was only waiting for the right time to rebuild. The potter did not discard the clay. He was reshaping it for greater glory. There is a sacred mystery in divine recovery. God does not erase the evidence of pain. He transforms it. The cracks remain, but they gleam with gold, like vessels repaired with holy fire. Your scars are not shame, they are signatures of survival. The same wounds that once disqualified you now authenticate your testimony. Chosen one, you walked through valleys where everything seemed stripped away: your confidence, your plans, even your identity. Yet here you stand, not empty, but expanded. The loss taught you language you didn't know before: compassion, patience, discernment. The absence carved space for abundance. God had to empty your hands so he could fill them again, this time with what cannot be taken. As the prophet Joel proclaimed in the 2nd chapter, verse 25, I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten, the great locust and the young locust, the other locusts and the locust swarm, my great army that I sent among you. The words, I will restore, are not a wish, they are a decree. God is not negotiating with your past, he is rewriting it. The years you thought were wasted are about to yield fruit. The time you thought was lost is being redeemed. Heaven has kept a record of every season you sowed in tears. And now the harvest begins. But restoration rarely arrives the way you expect. It doesn't knock politely. It flows like a river after drought. You'll wake up one day and realize the ache is gone. The heaviness has lifted. The pain no longer defines you. That's how restoration works. It sneaks up as peace before it shows up as blessing. Sometimes, restoration happens through people. Someone will appear in your life carrying the exact kindness you once gave and never received back. Other times, it's through revelation, a new understanding of why certain things had to break so others could bloom. Restoration doesn't erase memory, it redeems meaning. And even if some things don't return in form, God ensures they return in fulfillment. Maybe the person doesn't come back, but the lesson becomes wisdom. Maybe the opportunity never repeats, but a new one comes with greater purpose. Heaven always pays interest on what was lost. You've reached a stage where the pain no longer poisons you. It teaches you. You can now look back without bitterness, remembering how far you've come. That's the true sign of restoration, not when everything looks fixed, but when your heart no longer hurts the same way. Heaven's restoration is strategic. God doesn't just give back. He strengthens the foundation so that what broke before cannot break again. The doors that closed prematurely will open now with security. The dreams that once felt fragile will be built, this time to last. The connections meant for you will fit without striving. Chosen one. You've passed through fire and flood, but you were not consumed. Now you rise, carrying treasures from both. The waters you thought would drown, you have instead cleansed you. The fire you thought would destroy you has refined your purpose. You are stronger, purer, and clearer than before. Every delay was a setup for durability. Every loss was a lesson in stewardship. You now know how to carry blessing without losing yourself. That is why heaven waited. It wasn't punishing you, it was preparing you. So, as restoration begins to unfold, receive it with humility, not haste. Don't cling to how it should look. Trust how it's being delivered. The God who restores is not recycling the past. He is resurrecting destiny. What comes next will not be a return to what was, but the unveiling of what has been promised all along. You will look around one day and realize the story that once broke you has become your greatest ministry. The ruins of your yesterday have become the altar where God's glory rests. That is restoration, the transformation of pain into purpose, and the reminder that nothing surrendered to heaven ever truly dies. Chosen one. Restoration always carries within it a new assignment. When heaven returns what was lost, it is never just for comfort, it is for commission. You have been rebuilt, not merely to rest, but to be released. The same strength that carried you through the valley is now the strength that will carry others out of theirs. The journey that humbled you has also qualified you. You no longer speak as a survivor, you speak as a messenger. The new assignment is not loud or glamorous. It does not demand applause, it requires obedience. It will come quietly, like a whisper that settles in your heart. It may sound like compassion for someone you once would have ignored. It may look like a new opportunity, a conversation, a door opening where once there was only a wall. Heaven entrusts new missions to those who have been tested in silence. You are ready because you've learned to listen. Your new assignment will stretch you. It will call forth gifts you didn't know you had and reveal courage you forgot was there. You might feel unprepared, but that's the sign. It's divine. God rarely sends the equipped. He equips those he sends. And he is sending you now, not backward into regret, but forward into purpose. The quiet tug you feel in your spirit is not imagination, it's invitation. Heaven is asking, will you go again? Not in your strength, but in mine. Will you step into new ground, knowing that obedience, not comfort, is your compass, as the prophet Isaiah wrote in the 6th chapter, verse 8. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send? And who will go for us? And I said, here am I, send me. This is not a question of worthiness, but of willingness. Heaven already knows your flaws. What it seeks is your yes. Every mission begins with a whisper, like Isaiah heard a divine echo calling for someone to stand in the gap. The answer does not have to be loud, it just has to be sincere. Your new assignment will not always make sense. There will be moments when you are sent into places that feel uncomfortable, among people who do not understand you. But do not let discomfort confuse you. The same fire that refined you will guide you. Every step has already been mapped by grace. You are walking into prepared places. You may ask, why me, Lord? And heaven will answer, because you said yes when others walked away. You were faithful when no one was watching. You learned to obey when obedience cost you. That is why you were chosen for this specific path. God trusts you, not because you're fearless, but because you're faithful. Your voice, your presence, your story, they are all tools now. What once felt like disqualification has become your ministry. The areas where you bled are the very places where others will find healing through you. That's how heaven redeems pain. It turns scars into strategy. There is a holy weight on your shoulders, but it is not meant to crush you. It is the mantle of purpose. When you feel it press against your soul, it's a reminder that God's hand is still there, steadying you. You are not walking alone. The same Spirit that whispered in the darkness is the one that now leads you in light. Your assignment may not come with recognition, but it will come with reward. The Father delights in hidden obedience. He honors the quiet servants who carry His love into unseen places. You are being called to such work, to move with humility but power, to be light where others see only night. Do not worry about the size of your task. Heaven never measures greatness by scale, but by surrender. Sometimes your mission will look like speaking life into one weary soul. Other times it will look like leading many. What matters is that you remain yielded, ready, and listening. Chosen one. This is the threshold moment. You are standing between what was and what's next. The old you was trained by storms. The new you will walk in authority. The purpose for which you were preserved is unfolding now. Piece by piece. You have been prepared not just to carry blessing, but to become one. Say yes again, not to the comfort of yesterday, but to the calling of tomorrow. The world will not always understand you, but heaven always will. Walk forward, for the assignment is waiting, and heaven is already ahead of you. Chosen one. Now that you've been entrusted with a divine assignment, heaven reminds you of one sacred truth: every new fire must be guarded. What has been placed within you is precious, but it is also vulnerable. The flame you now carry has cost you battles, tears, and countless nights of surrender. Do not treat it lightly. The enemy cannot extinguish a fire born of heaven, but he can distract the one who carries it. That is why you must guard the flame. You are like a lantern walking through the night. The wind will always blow against you, trying to dim the light you hold. But if your hands stay steady and your focus remains firm, no gust can snuff it out. The same fire that illuminates your path also warms others. Protect it not by hiding it, but by feeding it. Feeding the flame means consistency. You keep it alive through prayer, through gratitude, through small, daily acts of obedience. Don't let your fire depend on applause or company. Many begin bright, only to burn out because they relied on admiration instead of anointing. You've learned better now. Your flame is not sustained by recognition, but by relationship. As Paul wrote in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 1, verse 6, fan into flame the gift of God, which is in you through my hands laid. That verse carries both promise and responsibility. The gift of God is already in you. The flame already burns. But it is your duty to fan it, to stir, nurture, and protect it. Fire thrives on focus. Neglect it, and it fades. Feed it, and it spreads. Guarding your flame will sometimes mean walking alone. Not everyone around you understands the cost of carrying light. Some may try to dim it with doubt, others with distraction. But you must remember, your call is not up for public vote. If you spend your life explaining your fire to those still comfortable in darkness, you'll waste the warmth that was meant to guide others forward. The world doesn't need perfection from you. It needs persistence. Even a flicker can guide someone lost in the night. You may think your impact is small, but to the one who sees your light from afar, it's everything. Sometimes guarding the flame means showing up one more time when you feel tired, whispering one more prayer when your voice trembles, sharing one more word of hope when no one claps. That's how fire grows quietly through consistency. Think of your heart as an altar. Every act of kindness, every moment of humility, every choice to forgive adds wood to that altar. But the fuel that keeps the flame alive is presence, the time you spend with God in stillness, the space you make for His whisper. The world will pull for your attention, but only presence keeps your fire pure. If this message touches your heart, take a moment to interact with it, like it, share it, or subscribe, not as a routine action, but as a way of fanning the flame outward. Every time you share light, you multiply it. Someone, somewhere, may stumble upon your gesture and find the spark they've been praying for. That's how heaven's fire spreads, not through grand gestures, but through simple obedience. And if you feel led to support this work, to donate, to pour oil on this altar, do it with joy. Your seed becomes part of the fire. Every act of giving is like adding a log to the bonfire of faith that keeps burning across nations. You are not funding a message, you are fueling a mission. Every bit of support, whether financial or prayerful, ensures that this light continues to reach hearts that still sit in shadow. But more than anything, leave your reflection below. Write a few words, something from your spirit, about what this flame means to you. Your comment is not just a response, it's a spark. When others read it, they'll feel less alone in their struggle to keep the fire alive. Sometimes one honest sentence can reignite another soul's hope. The truth is, flames are communal, they burn brighter together. When your light touches another's, the darkness between them disappears. That's what this moment is about, keeping the circle of light unbroken. Chosen one, keep guarding what God placed within you. Protect it from bitterness, from exhaustion, from distraction. The world may grow colder, but your fire will not go out if you keep tending it. And as you guard it, you'll discover that it guards you in return. For every flicker that once seemed fragile will one day become a beacon. Every quiet act of faith will become part of a greater blaze. You are not just holding a flame, you are carrying the fire of heaven. Keep it alive, keep it pure, and let it shine wherever you go. Chosen one, this is the part of your journey where heaven reveals the deeper reason for everything you endured. You were never just being rescued, you were being transformed into the answer to someone's prayer. For so long, you cried out for deliverance, for clarity, for healing, and now, in a divine twist of mercy, you have become the vessel through which those very things will flow to others. You have become the answered prayer. It's a quiet transformation, one you may not even recognize at first. You simply begin to notice that your words carry weight they didn't before. People listen when you speak. Your story touches hearts you never intended to reach. You comfort others with the same comfort that once nursed you back to strength. Without realizing it, you've crossed the line between needing miracles and becoming one. There was a time when you begged for God to send help. Now, you are the help He sends. You are the sign someone else is asking for. The proof that God still intervenes, still redeems, still restores. The same fire that purified you is now the light that guides others out of their darkness. Heaven never wastes pain. It converts it into purpose. Every tear that fell, every wound that healed, every moment you almost gave up has been repurposed. You are walking evidence that nothing surrendered to God stays broken. You are proof that restoration is possible. There are people walking into your life now who will see in you what they've stopped believing exists. Hope that breathes, faith that moves, love that forgives. You won't always have to preach. Your presence will be enough. The peace that surrounds you, the steadiness of your steps, the grace in your responses. These are sermons in motion. Someone who feels unseen will look at you and feel noticed. Someone who feels forgotten will recognize the reflection of their own struggle in your resilience. That's how heaven works. It answers prayers through people. As Jesus spoke in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." You once read those words and thought they were about others, saints, prophets, people greater than you. But now, they have become your identity. You are that city on the hill. You are the light that cannot be hidden anymore. God did not pull you from darkness only to keep you quiet. He restored you to radiate. Being the answer doesn't mean being flawless. It means being available. You will still have moments of doubt and fatigue, but those moments will only remind you how much grace sustains you. God never demanded perfection from you, He desired partnership. And now that you've learned to walk with Him, your life has become a conduit of His presence. Think of it this way: a river doesn't drink its own water, it exists to refresh others. The strength flowing through you isn't meant to stay, it's meant to move. Every lesson you've learned, every scar you carry, is water for thirsty souls. You may not even realize it, but your story has already started to heal people you'll never meet. This is the beauty of becoming an answered prayer. You begin to see purpose in your past. Every valley now feels necessary because of the wisdom it gave you. The nights that once felt endless are now chapters you can read to others still trapped in darkness. You've been trained by both sorrow and glory, and that combination makes you dangerous to despair. Chosen one, you are walking proof that God still writes redemption stories. Your existence says He can do it again. You don't have to have all the answers, you simply have to carry His presence. When you show up in love, heaven arrives with you. When you speak peace, storms begin to settle. When you forgive, chains break. You are no longer praying for light, you are the light. The most powerful ministry is not performed on stages, but lived in everyday kindness. When you forgive the one who hurt you, you are someone's answered prayer. When you extend mercy instead of judgment, you are rewriting someone's story. When you simply stand and refuse to give up, you become the sign that hope still works. Do not underestimate how far your obedience reaches. Heaven has positioned you strategically. You walk into rooms as a representative of peace. You sit at tables as a carrier of grace. You meet people at their lowest points and remind them through presence. Not preaching that God still moves through human vessels. Chosen one. This is where the story comes full circle, where the heavens, once silent and watchful, burst again into song. The smile that began in secret now widens into radiance. Heaven smiles not because of what you have accomplished, but because of what you have become. You are no longer merely a seeker of grace, you have become a reflection of it. Every wound has turned into wisdom. Every valley has become a wellspring. Every cry has been woven into a symphony of purpose. Heaven's final smile is different from its first. In the beginning, it smiled at your obedience. Now, it smiles at your transformation. It is the joy of a creator seeing his image restored in you, clear and unbroken. The light that once flickered in your heart now burns steadily. Not because life has grown easier, but because your faith has grown deeper. You are no longer afraid of storms, for you have learned that light shines brightest under clouds. When heaven looks upon you now, it sees resilience where there was once fear. It sees patience where there was once striving. It sees peace where there was once panic. You have become evidence that surrender is not weakness, but strength sanctified by grace. Your very life whispers a truth the world cannot silence, that love wins, always quietly, persistently, eternally. There was a time you questioned if all the pain had meaning. Now you know it was all preparation. Every unanswered prayer, every delay, every heartbreak was heaven's careful chiseling, shaping you into a vessel that could hold glory without breaking. You had to be emptied before you could overflow. You had to be humbled before you could carry holiness. Heaven's smile is not only joy, it is approval. You have been tested and found trustworthy. As the prophet Zephaniah wrote, In the 3rd chapter, verse 17, "The Lord your God is with you. He is mighty to save. He will take great delight in you. He will quiet you with his love. He will rejoice over you with singing." Can you hear it now? The song being sung over your soul is not a song of pity, but of praise. It is heaven's melody of completion, the sound of divine satisfaction. You have become what you were always meant to be, a reflection of God's joy on earth. When heaven sings over you, creation listens. The same voice that spoke galaxies into existence now hums peace into your being. This is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of the eternal chapter. You will still face challenges, but they will no longer define you. You walk now in a different rhythm, one that beats in time with heaven's heartbeat. You no longer chase blessings. Blessings chase you. You no longer beg for signs. You are the sign. The evidence of redemption breathes through you like wind through leaves. The world may never know the full cost of your becoming, but heaven does. It watched when you stood trembling and chose faith anyway. It recorded every time you forgave, every time you believed again, every time you loved, when bitterness would have been easier. Those moments became jewels in your crown, invisible to many, but shining before the throne. Heaven's final smile carries both relief and rejoicing. Relief, because you made it, you endured the refining without losing your tenderness. Rejoicing, because the plan that began before time now stands fulfilled in your life. The Father looks upon you and says, "This one reflects my joy." You are no longer the wounded one, the waiting one, the uncertain one. You are the radiant one, the chosen one, the one heaven delights to recognize as its own. There's a stillness that follows divine completion. You don't need to strive anymore. You simply rest in the rhythm of grace. You no longer measure progress by what you see, but by what you feel, the peace that doesn't fade, the love that doesn't waver. Heaven's joy has become your resting place. You've learned the greatest secret of all. Joy is not the reward, it is the revelation. It is the knowing that you and heaven are no longer two separate notes, but one melody. The same spirit that once whispered promises now sings fulfillment. The same God who once walked beside you now lives within you. You have become the harmony of heaven and earth. Chosen one. You've reached the end of this divine journey, but endings in heaven are never conclusions, they are coronations. You've walked through fire, through silence, through surrender. And now you stand radiant in grace. The heavens smile. The earth breathes easier. And your story has become a testimony of what unwavering faith can do. If these words have stirred something deep within your spirit, let that movement become action. When you like, when you share, when you subscribe, you aren't merely engaging with a message, you are extending light. Somewhere, a weary heart will find your echo and feel heaven reach through it. That's how divine ripple continues. One act of faith, multiplied through connection. And before you go, leave your reflection below. Write something, anything that your heart feels right now. Your comment might be the sentence that reignites someone's courage. This space is not just for words, it's for witness. You've carried light faithfully to this moment. Now, help it travel farther, because when the chosen rise, the world remembers that heaven still speaks through human hearts, and yours, beloved, is one of them.